Breaking right now. King Charles chooses Prince Harry over the heir to the throne, Prince William. The meeting that no one wanted to take place is happening as we come on air tonight, with Prince Harry entering Clarence House just moments after the King flew in from Scotland. Here is Harry's car entering Clarence House. This was a meeting, of course, that has been long suggested by Harry's side, but long opposed by Prince William, who believes that Harry should remain in exile, who thinks that no member of the royal family should give this guy the credibility that he's still in royal circles, and of course, should give him the opportunity to continue to leak stories. The meeting is not expected to last for long. Angela, some new reporting coming in from Shooter Scoop, who has been very good on the royal news in regards to Harry and Meghan in recent months. So let's get straight to his insight on this meeting. But first, the number one worst fruit for your waistline. Look, are you turning healthy fruits into highly unhealthy fruits without even realizing it? Fruit can be one of the healthiest things you can put into your body, but the majority of Americans are guilty of making this single mistake that can counteract all of the health benefits of fruit. Some fruits can help with occasional constipation, reduce bloating, and even help burn calories. Others can wreak havoc on your digestive system and energy levels. Now, I came across this viral presentation from world-renowned heart surgeon Dr. Stephen Gundry that showcases the 3 fruits to stop eating today. It was shocking. I had no idea. And after finding it out, I've stopped eating these 2.
And I think that it is appalling that he should be able to swung around today. I think it's just awful. I mean, if he's in there, I would hope that he would apologise, but I doubt it very much because he wants his father to apologise. He wants him to apologise to Meghan hugely, and he wants him to apologise to himself. Why? I don't know. The thing is, he should do is apologise to everything that he's done so badly in his book, in his behaviour, talking on the BBC recently, being very rude, and I think that he's not going to get it either. And I think that he will leak something, and we don't want that.
He will not be able to help himself, Angela. I mean, already there is speculation, by the way, that he tipped off the paparazzi so that they would be outside Clarence House. And we can tell you, Angela,
that's also on his list. But actually, with Camilla, she won't expect Harry to apologise. She doesn't actually draw those things in and not sleep at night. She can handle that sort of thing. She's remarkable about that. We saw that and heard that when she started living with Charles, not so long after Diana died. But she can hold it, and she doesn't want to make a stir for that. So I think King Charles won't actually worry too much about her because she can handle herself and indeed him very well. But I think that with his brother, the heir to the throne, is shocking, and he has been so talked about in such a bad way by his brother, who he looked after all the time for years. He looked after him for a very long time because he loved him and he wanted to care for him right till he was 23. And they've been tremendously sane about the whole thing. And I don't think that it's right to actually rock the boat, as it were, because we really need them. They're who we really need.
Well, I know, but Charles has made his decision. Anymore. We're also hearing, Angela, they had a private tea together. Would this be the usual time that Charles would take tea? If you're enjoying what we're doing here on Outspoken, please consider joining our thriving community over on Substack, www.outspoken.live. You can sign up completely for free, but Substack is so important to me. It is a free speech platform. It protects me from big tech cancellation. Plus, you get to communicate directly with me. Head on over www.outspoken.live, enter your email address and sign up today.
Yeah, he likes his tea. He doesn't have lunch. I don't believe that either, but that's not quite the point of this. It's just that he's someone you can't trust anymore. And if you
Well, no, Angela, because he has come here this week. Now, number one, I do want to talk about these donations. We'll get to it because I don't trust them. I've got so many questions about them. Are they a tax write-off? Whose money is it? Is it your personal money? Did it come from Netflix and all of you slagging off the royal family? Is it Archewell money? I've got lots of questions about that. Why did you make this donation apparently in December, but you've only revealed the details now? But Angela, when it comes to that question, I think I could answer. Everything this week has been about trying to prove that he can overshadow Prince William in his own backyard. It is a total disgrace what this guy is doing, because he is totally ignoring the wishes of the late Queen Elizabeth II. So it's all well and good, Angela, for him to arrive in the country and tottle on off to St. George's Chapel and then leak to the media that he was paying tribute to the late Queen Elizabeth II.
She's insisted on being in all the meetings, and he's tried his very best. He just to keep on saying, I don't want her here, get rid of her, she's not going to be here. But she's refused to go. Very nicely, very politely, but she's going to stay in there so she can look after her husband and make sure that it doesn't go too far. I feel quite a bit better for that, because she knows him inside out and outside in, and she is the only one he really listens to. So it also means it's good that the king has agreed to her being there, that Harry changed his mind because he said he didn't want her there, so he had to do that or nothing at all, and I think that makes it a bit better. I'll tell you one thing that I shouldn't really, that I find very upsetting, but I think it's a time where you can say that, and that he is desperately trying to get all the money and all the apologies for Meghan and all that for his father while he's still alive.
Well, Angela, you mentioned that little joke. Take a look at what happened at this Wellchild event earlier in the week.
Said for many years that I still have a child inside of me. Have you got brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got a younger brother.
Does he drive you mad, or does he not?
No, we get along fine.
But Angela, what he did there was try and get that very young, sick kid to play into his digs at Prince William. It was completely inappropriate. So that was Declan Bitmead, 17-year-old. And Harry asked of his brother, does he drive you mad? When Declan replied, no, we get on fine, Harry replied, you know what, siblings. When he told Harry that his brother went to the same school as him, Harry said, you're at the same school? That sometimes makes it more challenging.
The gates of Clarence House creaked open, and in slipped a black SUV. Inside, Prince Harry. Fresh off a solo whirlwind tour, he arrived not for duty, but for something far more dangerous, a meeting that could change everything. Just minutes earlier, King Charles had returned from Scotland. The timing wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a chance encounter. It was a calculated risk, one that might fracture the monarchy from the inside. Behind palace doors, an hour-long conversation unfolded, but outside, chaos was brewing. Why? Because this meeting was never meant to happen, not according to Prince William. For months, insiders whispered that Harry had been begging for a royal sit-down. Charles had remained non-committal. William, however, was crystal clear. He's out. He stays out. No face-to-face, no reconciliation, no return to the royal fold. But today, Charles defied that, not in secret, but in full view of the world. William wasn't present, he wasn't informed, and according to sources, he's utterly furious. Think about that. A monarch knowingly held a private meeting with the most controversial royal figure alive, while his heir, the future king, stood firmly against it. In any other family, that would be awkward. In the House of Windsor, it's a declaration of war. The meeting itself, a mere 55 minutes, according to paparazzi-friendly royal reporters, many of whom, by sheer coincidence, just happened to be stationed outside Clarence House when Harry rolled up. Coincidence or tip-off? And what did they discuss behind closed doors? Was it a peace offering? A last chance for father and son to reconnect? Or was it Harry pushing for apologies? For money? For Meghan's HRH status? Again? Because while Charles may still feel the pull of fatherly love, William sees something else, a threat to the very institution they swore to protect. This wasn't just a family reunion. It was a collision course between loyalty, legacy, and manipulation. And if you think the damage is over, it's only just begun. Because what came next proves this meeting wasn't a step toward healing. It was a grenade thrown at the future king's feet. Officially, King Charles was in London for a delayed round of cancer treatment at Harley Street. But unofficially, every move screamed something else. He made time, specifically for Harry. And that decision is now detonating like a political scandal inside Buckingham Palace. Let's get one thing straight. The king's treatment wasn't originally scheduled for the day Harry landed in London. It had been postponed, allegedly due to parliamentary session conflicts. But insiders now suggest that the reschedule wasn't about politics at all. It was about creating a precise window for this high-risk meeting. A window so tight it could only have happened if the king cleared his entire diary. That's not diplomacy. That's a deliberate choice. A choice that flew directly in the face of months, if not years, of royal protocol. And here's the kicker. Harry had been trying to engineer this meeting for months. Every public comment about healing, every press quote about peace, and every mention of his father's illness in interviews, it all led here. One former palace insider bluntly told Shooter Scoop, this was the moment he's been waiting for. It was always about timing the ask perfectly. When the king was vulnerable, and William was distracted. And distracted William was. While his father rearranged cancer appointments to see Harry, the Prince of Wales was hundreds of miles away, focused on frontline royal duties. Some royal watchers now believe that was the point. The king timed the meeting when he knew William would be too far removed to object, publicly or privately. But Charles wasn't alone in this. Reports suggest that Queen Camilla was present during the entire meeting, despite Harry's historic attempts to exile her from the room. This detail, though not officially confirmed, speaks volumes. Camilla has long acted as Charles's emotional firewall. If she were in the room, this wasn't a warm father-son catch-up. It was a negotiation, one where Camilla wasn't about to let her husband walk in blind. So why did Charles do it? Some believe it's guilt, a father reckoning with his own mortality, desperate to settle scores before it's too late. Others say it's political, a move to appear magnanimous in the face of mounting public scrutiny. And then there are those who think he caved, that Harry played the right emotional cards at the right moment, cancer, legacy, last chances, and Charles folded. But no matter the motive, the outcome is the same. The monarch broke ranks. Royal insiders are already murmuring that this choice may permanently alienate Prince William. One described the mood at Kensington Palace as white hot. Another said simply, the king gave Harry exactly what William told him not to. There's no coming back from that. And as the king sipped tea behind palace walls, perhaps thinking he had finally calmed the storm, the headlines were already spinning. The message was out. Harry had won a seat at the royal table again, however briefly, and he wasn't done using it. While Clarence House poured the tea and offered platitudes about private family matters, one person was reportedly seething in silence. Prince William. Not just disappointed, not just skeptical, furious. And not without reason. This wasn't some casual drop-in. It was a highly orchestrated symbolic gesture, one that reopened a wound William had spent the last 19 months trying to bury. Behind the smiles, titles, and duty, there has always been a red line. Harry doesn't come back. Not now. Not ever. That line, Charles just crossed it. Sources close to Kensington Palace paint a chilling picture. William was not consulted, not warned, not even briefed. The heir to the throne found out about his estranged brother's Clarence House entrance the same way we all did. Through the press. The very press Harry continues to manipulate with carefully timed leaks and pap shots. And while King Charles may believe in reconciliation, William believes in accountability. He hasn't forgotten Spare. He hasn't forgiven the Oprah interview. And he certainly hasn't dismissed the claim that his own wife, Princess Catherine, asked inappropriate questions about Harry's children. That allegation wasn't just a headline. For William, it was character assassination. To suggest that trust could be repaired in 55 minutes? That's not naivety. That's an insult. Behind palace doors, two factions are now quietly solidifying. Not around Harry, but around Charles versus William. And for the first time, the future of the monarchy may not hinge on public opinion, but on which royal survives this civil war. William's supporters are reportedly horrified. They see Harry as radioactive, a man who weaponizes compassion when it suits him, then detonates relationships in print. Worse, they fear Charles's willingness to give peace a chance may hand Harry the one thing he's always wanted: credibility as a royal while living like a celebrity. And here's what stings most. William fought to protect the monarchy when no one else would. He held the line when the Queen was frail, when Charles was distracted, when the press was relentless. He protected Catherine, shielded the children, absorbed the headlines. He endured. Now, after all that, does Charles grant Harry a tea date? The timing is brutal. Catherine, still recovering, remains out of the spotlight. The palace is juggling public engagements, constitutional responsibilities, and behind-the-scenes power shifts. And into that delicate ecosystem, Charles drops a royal bombshell, with a son who's been filming Netflix deals and blasting his own family for profit. One senior insider reportedly warned, if Charles thinks this was a wise fatherly gesture, he's mistaken. William will see it as betrayal, plain and simple. And that's exactly what it is, a quiet, calculated betrayal of the man already preparing to lead the monarchy into the next era. William may not show rage in public, but his silence. It's louder than any interview Harry could ever give, because the Prince of Wales knows something his father clearly doesn't. Once you let a snake back into the garden, it's only a matter of time before someone gets bitten. She wasn't in the car. She wasn't at Clarence House. But make no mistake, Meghan Markle was in that room. Maybe not physically, but in spirit, in strategy, and in demands. Because this meeting wasn't just about father and son. It was about titles, control, and power. According to royal insiders, Harry didn't just want to reconnect. He came with a list. And at the top of that list was an apology, not just to him, but to Meghan. Yes, the woman who quit the firm, accused them of bias on international television, and launched an entire PR empire off her royal victimhood, now allegedly wants something very specific in return, a formal apology from the king. But it gets worse. Angela Levin, biographer and longtime royal analyst, claims Harry's demands may have gone even further. Not just apologies, not just reconciliation, but restoration. As in, the restoration of Meghan's HRH title in full royal use, and not just on paper, in protocol, in curtsies, in a public address. Meghan wants to be treated like a princess again, not a duchess in exile, not a footnote, a full royal, with the reverence, respect, and recognition that comes with it. And behind that demand, a carefully calculated agenda. Because if Meghan can be treated again as HRH, even unofficially, even ceremonially, it rewrites the entire Montecito narrative. She's no longer the outsider. She's the woman who left, but was still bowed to. She becomes a myth. She becomes a martyr. She becomes marketable. And Harry knows it. So while King Charles may have believed this meeting was about healing, insiders say Meghan saw it as a strategic window, a tight gap in the king's schedule, his defenses lowered by illness, and William kept at a safe distance. This was the perfect time to push the ask. The one thing she knew she'd never get from William, but might extract from Charles before it's too late. Because here's the dark truth. Many in the palace are whispering, Meghan and Harry may believe the clock is ticking. With Charles battling cancer, the window for royal concessions is closing. And when William ascends, they know it'll slam shut completely. Why? Because William has made one thing abundantly clear. No curtsies, no titles, no access. He sees Meghan as the instigator, the one who shattered the relationship between brothers, rewrote royal history through Netflix and Spotify, and dragged Catherine into a firestorm she never asked for. There's no forgiveness coming from Kensington Palace, not in this lifetime, which is why Harry had to go straight to the top, alone, and why Meghan stayed behind. It was optics, perception, strategy, a play straight out of the Hollywood handbooks. Make it look like a solo act, while orchestrating everything from behind the curtain. Even Queen Camilla, reportedly present at the meeting, knew what was unfolding. For years, Harry has tried to block her presence in royal conversations. Why? Because she sees through him. And more importantly, she sees Meghan's game board. And still, she stayed, silently anchoring the conversation while Charles navigated his son's emotional pitch. And make no mistake, there was a pitch. Whether it was money, status, or legacy, this meeting had one goal: to cement Meghan's return to royal legitimacy before it's too late. The tragedy? Charles might have taken the bait, or at least offered just enough warmth for Harry to spin the narrative. That Meghan is still in the fold. That apologies are on the table. Those titles might be restored. That Montecito royalty is back in play. And just like that, the myth is reborn. But there's one person who isn't buying a second of it. She wasn't supposed to be there, at least not according to Harry. Reports swirling around Clarence House confirm that Prince Harry made it crystal clear in the past. Queen Camilla was not welcome in any meeting concerning reconciliation. But on this day, the day Charles broke royal protocol and familial trust, Camilla didn't budge. She was there, at the table, silent, composed, and watching everything. And that changed everything. To outsiders, Camilla often appears like the quiet royal consort, sipping tea, smiling for cameras, accompanying the king on duties. But behind palace walls, her role is much deeper. She's Charles's closest advisor, his emotional anchor, and often the only person in the room who dares to say no to him. And when it comes to Harry, Her stance is no secret. This is the woman Harry branded dangerous in his memoir Spare. He painted her as the ultimate manipulator, someone who, in his words, was willing to leave bodies in the street to become queen. He framed her as the villain of his mother's story, and by extension, his own. But what Harry failed to realize, or underestimated entirely, is that Camilla doesn't fight with words. She fights with presence. And her presence at this meeting sent a very clear message. You will not manipulate this man, not while I'm here. According to royal insiders, Camilla has made it a rule. If Harry wants access to the king, she is not to be sidelined. No private chats, no whisper campaigns. If he's going to make demands, she's going to witness them. And while Charles may still carry the softness of a father clinging to hope, Camilla is under no such illusions. She's lived the headlines. She's endured the public hatred, the smear campaigns, the years in exile. She understands what true royal survival requires. And she doesn't forgive lightly, especially not when Harry dragged her through the global mud in front of Netflix's cameras and Oprah's lens. But here's the twist. Camilla doesn't need an apology. She doesn't want one. She wants protection. For her husband, for the institution, and for the legacy she's spent 2 decades helping to rebuild. And that's why her presence matters so deeply. Because while Charles may waffle and Harry may perform, Camilla is the constant, a seasoned operator who knows the stakes. If Charles caves even slightly to Harry's theatrics, offering soft apologies, gentle gestures, or even the illusion of restored favor, Camilla is there to remind him of the cost. The cost to William, to Catherine, to the monarchy, and to herself. And make no mistake, Harry noticed. He knows her power. He knows that as long as she's in the room, there will be limits, boundaries, a resistance he can't charm, guilt, or outmaneuver. So, while headlines swirled about Meghan's alleged demands and Charles's emotional vulnerability, the real story may have been this. Queen Camilla never let her guard down. And that's the only reason this meeting didn't end in complete disaster. But what Harry walked away with, that's still unclear. One thing, however, is certain. Camilla being there wasn't just about tea and courtesy. It was about sending a message to Harry, a message to William, and perhaps a final reminder to Charles himself. If you forget what he's done, I won't. The meeting was supposed to be private, discreet, a delicate royal olive branch away from flashing cameras and breaking headlines. And yet, within minutes of Prince Harry's car arriving at Clarence House, the press was there. Photographers positioned like snipers, camera shutters flaring in sync with Harry's tinted windows. Reporters from the biggest UK outlets are tweeting in real time. How? Because someone leaked it. Someone wanted it seen. And for those who followed the Sussex playbook, the answer is glaringly obvious. This wasn't a surprise ambush by the press. This was choreography. According to ITV's royal editor, Chris Shipp, a man some critics now mock as Harry's unofficial PR rep, Harry arrived at Clarence House at 5:20 p.m. and left at exactly 6:15 p.m., 55 minutes door to door. That precision wasn't guesswork. That's tracking, insider information. The kind of tip-off only the inner circle could provide. And here's where things get murky. Multiple sources have speculated that Harry's team tipped off photographers, ensuring that both his arrival and departure were captured. Why? Because this wasn't just a royal meeting. This was a rebranding opportunity. After weeks of bad press, stalled deals, and whispers that Harry had been iced out of the royal family, this single image, Harry walking into Clarence House, was gold. It screamed, I'm still in. I'm still relevant. The king still listens to me. And if you think that narrative wasn't instantly weaponized, think again. Within hours, friendly reporters were spinning a carefully crafted tale. That the meeting was a long-awaited reunion. That Charles was moved by Harry's sincerity. That apologies may have been exchanged. And that reconciliation could be on the table. All without a single official palace statement. That's how propaganda works in the modern royal age. No press release. Just orchestrated leaks, loyal media contacts, and carefully staged photos. The palace says nothing, but the message spreads anyway. And let's talk about the players behind that message. Chris Shipp, as mentioned, was one of the first to publish Harry's exact timings. Critics note his reporting has often aligned suspiciously well with Sussex PR narratives. Meanwhile, Shooter Scoop, a royal news aggregator with alleged Sussex sympathies, published glowing details about the months-in-the-making reunion. Again, with no named sources, just palace insiders. And then there's the bizarre rumor that Harry spent much of those 55 minutes not actually meeting Charles, but waiting in a corridor. Why would that detail leak? Unless someone wanted to inflate the idea of a meaningful meeting while covering for the truth, that it may have been little more than a glorified photo op. The manipulation didn't stop there. By morning, US outlets had picked up the story. Headlines blared. Prince Harry reunites with King Charles amid cancer battle. Emotional moment at Clarence House signals reconciliation. Royal family rift finally thawing? But behind the headlines, the truth was far colder. No official confirmation of what was said. No footage of Charles and Harry together. No joint photo. And no acknowledgement from Prince William, the person Harry most brutally attacked in Spare, and the person most enraged by this meeting even taking place. In fact, William's silence was deafening. He was hundreds of miles away, allegedly kept deliberately out of the loop. Because one theory now spreading behind the scenes is this: Harry needed a photo. He needed a narrative. He needed to look royal again. And Charles, whether out of fatherly softness or political blindness, gave it to him. Wrapped in tea, tied with a ribbon, and served up for the paparazzi. But behind the soft images and gentle framing, the real war is still raging. A war not just for public opinion, but for legacy, control, and the very soul of the monarchy. Because if Harry can spin a 55-minute meeting into a royal resurrection, what else is he quietly scripting behind the scenes? The Clarence House meeting wasn't the only headline Prince Harry made during his surprise return to the UK. Just hours before he stepped into the Lion's Den, he was shaking hands and flashing smiles at a publicized event for the Invictus Games. A noble cause, yes, but one now marred by a clear undercurrent. Harry wasn't here for reconciliation. He was here to dominate the narrative. Insiders are calling it the 4-day PR ambush. Carefully timed appearances, high-profile donations, subtle digs at William, all disguised under the banner of philanthropy. But peel back the veneer, and a far more strategic operation reveals itself. At the center, money, optics, and competition. It began with the headlines: Harry to donate $1.9 million to military veterans. A noble gesture, if it wasn't so perfectly timed to coincide with his brother's upcoming engagements. Prince William had been planning several appearances to spotlight UK veterans and mental health awareness, causes deeply tied to his royal platform. But before William could take the stage, Harry stole the spotlight, armed with donations and cameras. Except there's a problem. No one knows where that money really came from. Royal commentator Angela Levin didn't mince words. She publicly questioned whether the funds came from Netflix, the Spare book deal, or the Archewell Foundation. Others suspect the donations were less altruistic and more calculated, potentially timed tax write-offs wrapped in a headline-friendly bow. But that wasn't the only mystery. The donation, reportedly made back in December, had gone unannounced for months until now. So why reveal it during this precise week? Why pair it with a tightly choreographed Clarence House visit? Because it wasn't about the money. It was about the message. I'm generous, I'm royal, and I'm still a global player. That message was amplified again when Harry addressed crowds at the Invictus reception and took the opportunity to make veiled jabs at his brother. While speaking to a 17-year-old boy battling illness, Harry allegedly quipped, "Got a brother? Does he drive you mad?" When the teen replied no, Harry grinned and responded, "You know what siblings are like." It was subtle, it was slick, but it wasn't lost on anyone. This wasn't a prince connecting with the public. This was a man using sick children to score points in a family feud. And it wasn't the first time. Multiple sources claim Harry's Invictus engagements were designed to create an unavoidable contrast. While William was seen attending lower-profile duties with limited press, Harry was surrounded by flashbulbs, photo ops, and legacy-building moments. The contrast was jarring. And allegedly, that was the point. Because Invictus, once the crown jewel of Harry's independent initiatives, is now being wielded like a blunt weapon, not just to support wounded warriors, but to outshine William, to remind the world, I'm the royal who left, but I'm still the one doing the work. But here's where it gets even more cynical. During the same week Harry was handing out donations and raising glasses at receptions, his legal team was fighting UK authorities over his security demands, insisting the British taxpayer should help fund round-the-clock protection for himself, Meghan, and their children. That's millions in protection, while boasting about giving away millions in donations. Critics weren't buying it. One commentator wrote, "If you can donate nearly £2 million on a whim, why are you begging for taxpayer-funded security? And perhaps more revealing, why now? Why return during a week when Catherine remained absent from public life? Why demand a meeting with the king, knowing William would be away? Why stage a media blitz when the monarchy is navigating cancer treatments, political tensions, and public fatigue? Because Harry wasn't just visiting the UK. He was executing a chess move, and in his eyes, the king may have blinked. But William saw the whole board and watched his brother make one of the boldest power plays yet. It was meant to be heartwarming. A smiling Prince Harry, charming the crowd at the Wellchild Awards, surrounded by brave children battling unimaginable illnesses. Cameras flashed, applause rang. But then, in just a few casual words, Harry crossed a line. During a conversation with 17-year-old Declan Bitme, a young man facing serious health challenges, Harry asked an innocent enough question, "Got a brother? Does he drive you mad?" The boy smiled and replied, "No, we get on fine." Harry wasn't satisfied. He pushed further, adding, "You know what siblings are like. Being at the same school makes it more difficult, doesn't it?" On the surface, it was a harmless joke. light banter between a prince and a sick teen. But to those watching closely, including royal insiders, the intent wasn't innocent at all. It was a not-so-subtle jab at Prince William, disguised beneath a public smile. This wasn't the first time Harry weaponized humor, but doing it in front of a child fighting for his life, that took it to a new low. Angela Levin, who shadowed Harry for over a year and once admired his emotional intelligence, called the moment cruel, calculated, and inappropriate. Other commentators didn't mince words either. One described it as a sick stunt at a sick kid's expense, and the fallout? Immediate. Viewers recoiled. Comment sections exploded. Royal watchers and average citizens alike questioned Harry's judgment, or perhaps more accurately, his motives. Because Declan wasn't just any child, he was the perfect prop for a PR moment. Brave, articulate, and willing to share his story. Everything Harry's camera crew would want. But instead of simply highlighting the teen's courage, Harry made it about himself, his feud, his past, his pain. This is the growing pattern and the danger. Even in moments of compassion, Harry finds a way to insert the drama. Whether consciously or not, he's blurring the line between royal duty and personal vendetta. And in doing so, he risks turning meaningful causes, like the Wellchild Awards or the Invictus Games, into backdrops for a reality show. One that still revolves around one narrative: poor Harry, mean brother, victimized duchess, unfair palace. But this time, the setting wasn't Netflix. It wasn't Oprah. It wasn't a private podcast or staged interview. This was real life, a vulnerable child, a moment that should have been sacred. And in that moment, the mask slipped. Because what kind of prince uses a terminally ill teenager to take potshots at his brother? What kind of man deflects from a child's trauma to revisit his own petty grievances? It wasn't just inappropriate, it was cruel. And yet, Harry smiled through it, oblivious, or worse, self-satisfied. Because for him, this wasn't about Declan. It was about control of the narrative. Another attempt to cast William as the cold, stiff, older brother, while painting himself as the relatable royal. But no amount of relatability can disguise opportunism. That moment, just a few seconds of poorly placed humor, may have done more damage than another chapter in Spare. Because now, the world isn't just reading Harry's bitterness, they're watching him act it out in real time. And for the monarchy, it's devastating. Because if Harry can't draw the line at a child with a life-threatening illness, what line will he draw? For decades, the monarchy's greatest power has been its unity, the quiet, unshakable illusion that behind those gilded gates, the House of Windsor speaks with one voice. But after Prince Harry's 55-minute meeting at Clarence House, that illusion has shattered. Because this wasn't just about a father seeing his estranged son. This was a strategic power shift, one that has exposed a dangerous truth. There are now two monarchies, one led by King Charles, the other, silently, fiercely, by Prince William. At the surface, the king's decision to meet Harry might seem personal, a father trying to find peace before it's too late. But inside the palace, insiders say it's being seen as a direct betrayal of his heir, the man who has carried the monarchy's weight through scandals, megacit, and even the Queen's death. Sources confirm that William was not informed, not consulted, not even debriefed afterward. And according to Tom Sykes of The Royalist, the future king is shocked and furious, not just because the meeting happened, but because it happened in full public view. The one request William had made repeatedly over the last year, that no royal should grant Harry the legitimacy of a formal return, Charles just broke that vow. And worse, he may have done it under the influence of a new power block within the palace. Enter Sir Theo Rycroft, Charles's new deputy private secretary and former diplomat. According to insiders, Rycroft represents a more conciliatory faction within the monarchy, one that believes outreach, not exile, will protect the crown. He's reportedly working to soften the king's tone and reframe Harry's return as a symbolic act of fatherhood, not institutional weakness. But there's a problem. His opposite number is still in play. Clive Alderton, known as the Wasp, is Charles's chief private secretary and a longtime hardliner. He and Harry reportedly loathe each other. Alderton is tight with William, sees Meghan as toxic, and believes the monarchy must draw a hard line or risk reputational collapse. Now, these two factions are clashing, not just in private briefings, but in the public arena. And Charles? He's caught in the middle, but William isn't. He's chosen his side, and he's drawing his own red lines. Insiders say William now views his father's judgment as compromised, blinded by illness, nostalgia, or worse, by fear of legacy. And that perspective has consequences, because when a future king loses faith in the reigning monarch, the whole institution enters uncharted territory. The tensions have become so palpable that palace staff is allegedly walking on eggshells. Some fear a permanent fracture between father and son. Others whisper about a new constitutional crisis brewing behind the scenes, one that could shape how Charles's final years as king unfold. And looming over it all, Harry, If William is right, and this meeting was nothing more than a PR stunt, a manipulation engineered to secure apologies, access, or even financial guarantees before Charles's health declines further, then we may be watching not just a family breakdown, but the slow strategic erosion of the monarchy itself. Because William doesn't forgive lightly and he doesn't forget. This is the man who watched his wife being publicly dragged into racial allegations she never uttered, who watched his brother call him violent, cold, and emotionally shut down, who watched their mother's memory be repackaged and rebranded, all in service of Harry's narrative. And now, he's watching his father cave, not for the first time, but possibly for the last. Because if this meeting signals the king's intent to reintegrate Harry and Meghan, even symbolically, William may begin to quietly separate his own court, to draw lines that not even Charles can cross, to protect the throne, even from within the family. And that, more than any Netflix deal or media leak, may be the true war ahead. Not between brothers, not even between Harry and the crown, but between a father still hoping for peace and a son who no longer believes it's possible. 55 minutes. That's all it took to ignite a firestorm. No royal press release, no palace portrait, no public statement of reconciliation, just one SUV, one photo at Clarence House, and one meeting that no one, except perhaps Prince Harry, wanted to happen. Now, as the dust settles, the monarchy finds itself more fractured than ever. We may never know exactly what was said inside that room. Did Harry offer a tearful apology? Did Charles express regret? Was there a genuine attempt at healing? Or was it simply a transactional play wrapped in the illusion of family? Some insiders whisper that an apology did happen, that Harry, facing the very real possibility of losing his father, softened, that the man who once called Camilla dangerous and William violent finally acknowledged the damage he's done. That, for a brief moment, forgiveness flickered. But others say the opposite. Harry came with demands that he brought a list, a strategy, and an expiration date. That he wanted money, titles, apologies, not for himself, but for Meghan. That he still insisted she be addressed as HRH. That everyone bow again. That he left without compromise. And still, the king granted him the audience. That alone was enough. Because in the royal world, optics are power. And by opening Clarence House's gates, Charles gave Harry the ultimate gift, relevance. Whether he meant to or not, the king handed his youngest son a new narrative, one that now echoes across headlines. He's back. They spoke. The door isn't closed, but at what cost? Prince William's silence has become a scream, not a single word, not a statement, not a glance. Because for William, this wasn't just a breach of trust. It was a collapse of principle, and it may be irreparable. Royal aides now speak in cautious tones. Some fear that Charles's gesture, meant to soothe, has instead triggered the very war the Queen tried to prevent at Sandringham. A family divided not just by miles, but by ideology. One monarch who still believes in second chances. One heir who believes some sins are permanent. And somewhere between them, a ghost. Diana's legacy, weaponized and warped. Once a symbol of compassion, now a battleground for control. Harry still invokes her. Meghan still references her. But it's William who has carried her torch with quiet dignity, and now watches her memory turned into a marketing tool. There is no justice in this story. No clear villain, no final redemption, just a simple truth. Forgiveness has been offered, but at what price? The monarchy may survive, it always has, but the family behind it? That may be the casualty. And as Harry returns to California, PR machines spinning and headlines glowing, he may believe he's won something, that this meeting proves he's still in the game. But what he doesn't see, or refuses to, is the quiet rage now simmering in Kensington Palace. The lines are drawn, the loyalty fractured, the bond with his brother was cut clean, perhaps for good, because forgiveness may have been extended, but trust is gone.